Double whammy of frustration. Thankfully, I noticed before it got out of hand. So, if you can't tell from my expression, to to repeat myself a little bit here, I was only seconds into the video, so it's not that big of a deal. To repeat myself, I was not a fan of this episode. Obviously, this is a D rank episode if I've ever seen one, and yeah. And I'll go ahead and say it. I prefer this one in the dub, mostly because of how the fight with the Orichalcos Gygus goes in the dub. Mostly because of Atem's commentary, right? I will admit some of the stuff is actually much better in the sub. Obviously, the deaths of Ironheart and Chris is as opposed to the capture. Although I suppose being fueled by becoming fuel for the Orichalcos does kind of make sense. And I mean, obvious. Why wouldn't he try to snatch the souls of Ironheart and Chris to feed the to feed Doma, right? Referring to darts, of course. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So the sub has some stuff in it that just really fucking pisses me off. Which is funny because it actually started with the fact that I thought I was going to give the point to the sub, and I was like, oh, okay, point sub, awesome. Then the battle happened, and then Raphael declaring that Atem resurrected Timaeus just basically just pissed me right the fuck off, and dipped the point right down to the dub. The dub is not exactly what I would call great, right? But it's also not something I would consider to be terrible. Terrible. And if I was looking at just the dub, I'll go ahead and be honest with you, this would be a C rank episode. Yes, the sub actually dragged this one down an entire letter grade, right? Because I felt like there was no point to this episode. Because the problem, like the ultimate problem with this episode. Oh wow, it really needs the thing. Oh well. The big problem with the episode is that it's a giant nothing burger, and I've been saying that a lot about a lot of these episodes. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of like very important stuff. Like here's the problem: you couldn't not do this episode, and that is the problem. But here's the funny thing: I almost feel like you could shrink this down a little bit. Like have the battle against the Gygus effectively be, you know, effectively be the whatchamacallit, right? Instead of having a prolonged duel between the two Yugis, have it just be, name the episode. Self doubt and like self doubt or something, or a Thames heartbreak or some, Pharaoh's heartbreak or whatever, ever, and then just kind of have the first half of the episode be uh be the battle against Yugi and vowing all of that, and then have the second half, and then you do your interlude, the ba ba, right, and then you go ahead and just have the Orichalcos soldier be these, and have the shot right before that be the Orichalcos soldier showing up and summoning Orichalcos Gygus. I guess, and then just kind of just have it be one big long action packed episode where, okay, Atem, gets his courage back, and then the second half of the episode shows that off. And don't tell me that can't, you can't do that in 22 minutes, because I've seen anime pull off an entire character, an entire, you know, character arc, results in 22 minutes before. I've seen it happen multiple times, especially considering that there are some animes that don't get 223 episodes. They get at most 13, which means they have to actually use their runtime effectively to get their story out. So don't tell me it can't work, because I've seen it work multiple times. There have been plenty of writers of anime that have perfected this craft because of the shortened time, right? So we start with the flashbacks, and the Orichalcos soldier shows up. We're shown the battle with the Orichalco, the war against the Orichalcos soldiers in the past. In the present, Atem is fighting the Orichalcos Gygus, which is an overpowered anime-exclusive monster. Every time it dies, it comes back, like, and every resurrection it gets, that's how it gains attack times 500, which is the number of resurrections times 500. So if you kill the thing 5 times, it gains 2,500 attack, right? To beat over Blue Eyes, it would have to die like 6 times. Five, well, admittedly 5 if when it's in the presence of the Orichalcos, because why would anybody use it outside of the Orichalcos, right? So then it's not even a standard duel, which is hilarious, because it's funny, because actually later on, Kaiba will actually make the commentary of where Atem will be like, I fought this thing once, Kaiba. But it was nearly indestructible. And Kaiba will say, "Oh, that's because you didn't have me to bail you out last time." Which is funny, because that's kind of true. Because here's the thing about the Orichalcos Gygus: it resurrects from the graveyard, right? That means I could wreck the Orichalcos Gygus in seconds. It could synchro Shogun and come on out, Dragoonity Knight, ask along, and bye. And don't tell me that wouldn't work, because keep in mind that at that point, I'd have 4 Dragoonities in my grave, technically, depending on how I do it. Hang on. Yeah. Card of Consonance discards Dragoonity summon Ducks, summon Dragoonity Ducks, hooks Dragoonity Ducks, hooks equips itself with Koos comes out, tune it. I know this is the DM era, so that wouldn't work, but it's like, come on, there's ways to do this. I mean, yeah, if that tactic were tried nowadays, yeah, I'd be able to crush it. But then again, if I was facing it, it would be through time travel, wouldn't it? Because I didn't really start dueling until the frickin' 5Ds era, which is why I say that. But yeah, still, yeah, Gygus is just an irritating monster, and yeah, that's the whole conflict of the entire episode, which is just fuck off. I would have preferred an entire episode just dedicated to telling us the backstory of the Orichalcos War, but that's just me. So the battle's not going well for Atem. Ironheart and Chris try to get to him. They effectively get shot down by darts. Now, it's treated as if they die here, and what's funny is that they're already dead, I would argue, because they died in the war. Not even just because, that was 10,000 fucking years ago, but because they died in the war and their spirits were just kind of lingering. I also prefer the fact that they're just sticking around to try and help Ilpatem because they want to help rather than it's their duty. But that's just me. Duty. Also, the end of this arc is officially made shit by this episode. I'm sorry. Chris's fate literally cements the fact that the final the final plot point of this arc is going to be fucking bullshit and is probably going to drop uh Rise of the Great Great Beast or whatever it's called. You know, the final 2 episodes of this arc down to an E. I'm not gonna say rant view because I think that's a little too far, especially with some of the awesome fucking moments in in that 2-parter. But yeah, no, it'll probably be E just because of that final at the end. But yeah, no, I have nothing to really say. You thought I had nothing to say last week. Oh God, I have nothing to say this week. No, seriously, what the hell do I even say about this episode? Oh, it's a it's a bog standard episode, and it's not a very good bog standard episode. It's like, what do you want from me? You know. And that's something I actually want to talk about. I talked about last time how this arc is badly paced, and I stand behind that 100%. You know. Uh, oh no, okay. Oh, okay. And it looks like I am still being heard. Thank God. Woo. Mm. Sorry, there was some weirdness with my laptop. Anyway, where was I? Right. This arc is pretty badly paced, in my opinion. It, it's not Battle City levels of like god awful in terms of the pacing, which I know is blasphemy, but I don't care. It was badly paced. I don't think you needed 70 to 80 episodes to fucking tell Battle City. I don't. I showed my work. I shaved off like 20 episodes off of the arc. I shaved like 20 to 30 episodes off of the fucking arc. Easily. Easily. And I mean that sincerely. I did that, because I trimmed. And that wasn't even me, throwing out superfluous shit outside of a couple of filler cases. I literally just slimmed it because I believe in using time effectively. Now, maybe that's just because I'm 36 at this point, and so my tolerance for slow pacing is a lot less. Actually, no. Let me walk that back because that contradicts a statement I said much earlier. About how The Godfather and From Russia with Love are slow-paced movies, and yet I don't feel like time was wasted. Well, that's the thing about those movies. They're dense, and that's the so I suppose I have a problem with wasting time, and I feel like this episode doesn't give me any real meat to chew on. A prime example of this, if you'll forgive the comparison to one of the greatest movies ever made, hey, in The Godfather Part 1, there is a lot of efficient and very flowing stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure it's what is that? Like, it's like an hour and a half into the movie is the restaurant scene with Sollozzo, McCluskey, and Michael, right? That whole scene is like an hour and a half into a 3-hour movie. It's halfway through the movie. And yet every time I watch it, I keep thinking, wait, I'm already at this scene every time because I haven't noticed the passage of time. Hell, the whole meeting with that movie studio head asshole, well, the movie studio pedophile, let's just call him what he fucking is fucking young star, her best piece of ass he ever had. God, my recent rewatch of that movie just kind of made me go, bleh, what the fuck? But anyways, uh, that whole meeting between Tom Hagen and that fucking jackass has uh fucking is like a half an hour into the movie. You know, the Connie's wedding at the beginning is literally like a half an hour long by itself. Oh, and granted, that's because it has to introduce a lot of the key players of the entire movie, of the entire trilogy, really. But still, because people forget almost every major character is actually introduced there. Vito's introduced there, Michael's introduced there, Sonny's introduced there, Tom Hagen's introduced there. Here, Barzini's even in that opening scene. Tessio, Clemenza, Enzia, Hurlo's in there. Obviously Connie. I guess obviously Carlo and Connie, but you get my point. Frickin' Luca Brasi is even introduced all in that opening scene. So many important characters are introduced in the first half an hour of the Godfather Part 1. It's a long movie, but it doesn't feel long. And that's the problem. This feels like a short series that feels like it's dragging itself out. No, like this honestly feels like I should be at episode like 73 of this. Well, maybe not 73. Like I should be in the low hundreds at most at this point. This is episode 164 for the record. We have only got like 7. No, I think we've literally got 80 episodes left of this show. And it doesn't feel like we have gotten anywhere in the story. Or anywhere really in the story. And there are plenty of shows where I can actually say that, usually older anime, because they take forever to tell their story. But in a lot of cases, even with some of the longer animes, I still, when I look up the episode count, for example, I literally am like shocked. In fact, I'm actually going to bring up a comparison. Fuck it. I am actually going to bring up a comparison for you right now. A comparison that I know some people might hate me for, but whoops. So list. Here we go. I want a list of the episodes. Let's see. All right. So now the specific one that I'm looking for, or I'll have to scroll down. Give me a second. So if we compare and contrast, this is episode 164. For the record, yeah, okay, here it is. Sorry. If we compare it to a show like Naruto, right? You want to know how many episodes we would be outside of the Sasuke retrieval arc, which is effectively the end of Naruto Part 1, because you can skip to Shippuden right after that and really miss like nothing. 29 episodes. The Sasuke retrieval arc ends at episode 135. 29 episodes less than what we have right here. And now you might think, well, how much of that is, how much meat is actually there, Blue Wolf? The opening stint to the Land of Waves, so the Zabuza arc, basically. The tuning exams, the Leaf Village being under attack, slash the Leaf Village being under attack. So the tuning exams, then the tuning exams finals, which were also, when Orochimaru pulled that whole shtick, tracking down Tsunade, and the Sasuke retrieval arc is all in those 135 episodes. Now let's compare that to DM. How many storylines have we had in DM specifically? And I'm not counting filler. Okay, well we had Duelist Kingdom. All right, fair enough. We had the first part of Battle City, which then got interrupted by the virtual world arc, which then led us to Alcatraz Island. And now we're halfway through the Dome arc, even if we wanted to count that. But if we don't, that's only three canon arcs that have been played out, as opposed to the 5 that I want to remind you were done in 29 less episodes. And Naruto is notorious for being overlong with filler, which is hilarious when you actually start running the numbers and compare them to some other shows, like this one, right? Hell, if you want to get technical, if you want to actually get well, actually, I guess if you want to really get technical, Dungeon Dice Monsters needs to be put in there, so 4. Now, if you're wondering, why the hell does Dungeon Dice Monsters need to be put in there, Blue Wolf? It's in the manga. That's why. Because it's technically not filler. And obviously I'm counting all of season 2 in there because, like, basically all of season 2 was in the manga in some way, shape, or form, even if it was different, right? But even if we include that, that's only four. In the manga arcs, as opposed to and again, as opposed to the 5 that were done in Naruto. In the first 135 episodes, there are not a lot of filler episodes. Believe it or not. The first 135 episodes are actually pretty fucking dense. That's why a lot of people kind of yearn for the first couple of seasons of Naruto, because of how dense they were. And make no mistake, they were dense AF. Even if that is, 2.5 years of content, right? Give or take. But yeah, no, I know I've spent more time bitching about the pacing of this and the previous about the pacing of this series in these episodes, more so than actually talking about the series itself. But in my defense, what the hell do I even say about this? What the hell do I even say about what the hell do I even say? Like, I could talk about how Raphael's in this episode, but what the fuck do I say about him? You know? And again, the only thing that I didn't even really bring up and don't feel the need to bring up is the whole thing with Atem's despair, because I think it is better handled in the sub. But the problem is that I don't think this arc is very good. Now, obviously, we're in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we're going to be getting to an episode that I actually am looking forward to, and most certainly will get the point. The sub will get the points for those 2 episodes because it's Flight of Fear, and AKA Imelda, and we've already established Imelda's better than Alistair. But outside of that, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Everything else just, like, and then of course everything else is a giant question mark. Fighting for a friend, question mark. Paradise Found, question mark. Grappling with a guardian, giant question mark there. A duel with darts. I don't even know what the fuck I'm gonna think of that episode in general. Never mind which version I think I'm gonna prefer. Her. Hell, that will probably be a situation like in when it comes to when it came to Match of the Millennium, because if you remember, there were some episodes of Match of the Millennium I prefer subbed, and some I prefer dubbed, which was ironic. And I'm predicting that's going to be the same thing there. Like, I would say probably part 6 I'll probably prefer dubbed, and then like parts probably parts like 2 and 3, or no, maybe 2 and 3. 2, 3, and 4 I might prefer subbed. I don't know. Obviously, because I've never watched a Duel with Darts subbed, so who the fuck knows? But I'm just rambling, random speculation because, again, I've got nothing to fucking talk about, so I should probably just stop beating around the bush. You probably think, oh, it's because you want to pad out the runtime, Blue Wolf. No, it's because I want to avoid having to watch the next episode, because the next episode is Deck of Armor, aka Velen on the Move, Mysterious Armor deck. AKA Valen AKA the episode where Valen whips out his dick to try and impress Mai. I'm never letting that go. But I should rip the band-aid off so that way on the next watch session, which will probably be Saturday, it might, from my perspective, this coming Saturday, which will probably be in a couple of days, I can go ahead and do that because I've got some other plans for tomorrow. And anyways, I'm gonna chop this off. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, and I will see you guys next time for an episode that I have no idea what the fuck I'm gonna think of that. Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. Duel stand by.